Hello, and welcome to Khyber Shards, a 5th edition actual play show set in the Eberron campaign world. I'm Philip, this is Eric, and it is Khyber Shards Answers, because it's Friday, and it's the day where we do our little question and answer show.
Yep.
And today, we are joined with Eric, player of Ari.
Yes.
Who's...
others this particular past
true.
episode.
Yes. Ari, who's having
A rough go of it.
rough go of it for in recent days.
Yep.
Haven't really needed to poke at Ari much as the as the dungeon master. He's doing quite a lot of his own self-recrimination and
Yeah. I think that's a little bit of how I am as a player. Like, I remember when the topic of Sarah came up and I added this mysterious did she die in the morning? And there were some people either in the comments or the Discord oh, you're just giving Philip something to work with. I was like, listen, I'm not going to need Philip's help to make my character's life miserable. I will find opportunities. So
it's all the BioWare games you play.
Yeah.
It's the inevitable horrible thing that happened to the BioWare hero either right at or right before the beginning of the story.
Yeah. Well, and I find it compelling, to examine, the internal effects of all these external factors and kind of.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying playing Ari.
Yeah, and I mean, character comes out under stress, under when you put someone under duress of some kind. It's revealing.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, I mean, if characters were going to have really normal everyday lives, then we would just need to do something other than Dungeons and Dragons. It would be, what is the setting? There's got to be a system that's for characters just going about, to play just a normal.
There's a Jane
drama.
Austen setting where you're trying to live the aristocratic life and write letters.
All social conflict.
Yeah.
That,
Stand
that
6
might,
feet away from your paramour and look longingly.
That might do it. That might be, yeah. Anyway, we have some questions regarding the most recent set of episodes. We'll start with Richard. Richard asks, how fun was it being the Red Ring commentator?
It was a lot of fun. I mean, it doubly so because it's always a joy when you get to just mess around. It's like the joys of playing a one shot, or with RA and Casey playing their one-time gladiators. There's not the stakes, and even for me, there was literally zero stakes. But also because you and I didn't talk a lot going into, we had just kind of established that I was going to be the color commentator, and that was really all you knew going into it. So it was fun to see your response to the character, and so it was a lot of fun. I hope people enjoyed it.
It was delightful, and it was so as someone who's been your friend for a long time, it was really amusing because I could see the numerous movies that you and I love that you were pulling from with, whether it was from news anchors or commentators or things like that from the various films that we liked. There was a lot of Jason Bateman in Dodgeball and a little bit of best in show weirdness to it. That was a lot of fun for me as well. We still don't have a name for that character, I think. We're going to have to come up with who that character is in case it needs to recur at some point.
My favorite, just bit that flew under the radar is the concept that they could have separate knowledges, because it was clear that one of them knew about gladiatorial combat and the other one had no clue. And it's you're an Eton. How does that happen? It's I was sleeping during that conversation. I'm sorry. So yeah, it's just
and the notion that they have to work together to move the body around. It was absolutely absurd, but in all the most fun ways that D&D can be. I saw something on the internet where someone had taken the clip from the new Spider-Man trailer where Doctor Strange tells Peter to call him something other than Doctor Strange, and Peter calls him Steven. Yeah. And Strange goes, well, that's weird, but I'll allow it.
Yeah.
And it was posted under the caption of my DMing style.
Yeah.
And that's what this was for me. It was like, this is so very strange. We've really messed up the lore of Ettins, but I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so that was a great deal then.
One of them has issues with low blood sugar, even though they share
Only
a physical body.
Yeah, there's just a whole lot of questions about the physiology now of the Ettin.
Well, and it's just anytime you can like sneak under the radar without anybody really noticing, like a modern thing like a pudding cup or low blood sugar. It reminds me of Lord of the Rings when Gimli references a central nervous system. It's like, no, like that's not like. But you don't catch it. At least most people didn't catch it in the moment. It was on reviewings where you're like, wait a second. I feel like that's a modern kind of discovery. So,
yeah. Did you have any regrets about not being able to participate in the game?
Yes and no. It would have been fun to actually be like a participant and get to like, especially getting to play with Mia would have been a lot of fun. But at the same time, it allowed me to, I guess, I didn't get a separate turn, so I got to just have moments peppered throughout, which was a lot of fun, of just finding those moments when one of the other players would do something and just getting to provide commentary on it, and having that be an accepted thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I think if I had to do it over again, I would stick with being the commentator because that was a lot of fun. So
good,
yeah,
good. It also turned out very convenient because you had to go rescue Mike.
Yes. And you and I
no.
got to play off each other a lot, which
I
feel like
that is fun. You and I don't get to be on the same side of a D&D
screen.
table very often, and so that is always fun when we get to direct interact without it being a DM player interaction.
Yeah. A classic Philip Eric conversation in a role playing game,
right?
Just an arduous affair.
Speaking of Mia, she had a question.
Yeah.
Mia has a two-part question. The first part is, which X-Men character does Eric think Ari most resembles?
I think that I spent a good amount of time thinking about this because I think my answer when the campaign started and my answer now are worlds apart.
Interesting.
I think that Ari, and it kind of lines up from a power standpoint, I think he is like early young Charles Xavier. Like he has always been the proponent of like, we need community, we need to find people, we can't be an island unto ourselves. We need to build something to protect other people, and we shouldn't be violent about it. It should be a positive thing. It should be a positive growth thing. And I was inclined to lean more towards Cyclops in that regard, except Cyclops is good in the field and Ari not so much. So yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of where I'm at, and I'm keeping it to like top 50 X-Men. I'm sure there's like a D-list X-Men out there that perfectly lines up with Ari. But I don't read all of the comics. So that's where I would land, is like a young, still naive, not god level powered Charles Xavier. So James McAvoy, you know.
And then second part of her question, if Ari had access to X-Men comics, which X-Men would Ari think he most resembles?
I think he would be, apologies to Colin, he would be one of those insufferable Gambit fanboys that thinks he's just, you know, he's got the swag, he's got the look, and yeah, I think that's absolutely where Ari would be, at least early campaign at conception. I don't think Ari thinks about X-Men much these days.
Right.
So yeah, but I think that's where like reading through the like first few runs of X-Men, that would be the character who would go, yeah, that guy knows what's up. So
that was my guess as to who Ari would most identify with, was definitely Gambit. Totally see Ari sporting the weird no index finger and pinky gloves.
Yep.
I don't know what the thought design process behind that was.
because he throws things, I guess, and so it's better.
Well, I guess he has
but
to
the
have
pinky
contact.
doesn't make sense. What?
Yeah, he needs contact to charge something.
Yeah.
So he's got to have a finger. But yeah, why is the pinky? Why wouldn't it be like just like these two fingers or something?
Yeah.
Like, that would be what I would think you would want.
Let us know in the comments.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Excellent. And then Laura's question, I think, has probably got some wheels on it for us to poke at. Laura says, Eric, if you're willing, I'd love to hear ways you think Ari has been processing things differently from the rest of the group. There have been a few times where you've said things like, that's not how Ari sees it. And I just added way too much snark to that tone. And I wondered if we could have more perspective on that.
You revealed Ari's inner monologue. He self-censors a lot more than... So I really tried to rack my brain about exact moments that I could recall saying this, and I can't, although I mean, there have been some obvious moments where Ari has been in direct opposition to, I think, the way the tide was going. A big thing, like, in the 2-year gap between the prologue and start of the campaign, that makes Ari, I think, really unique in this party, is that he wasn't laying low in like the extreme term that we kind of look at with like Ezri, or like Shade spent most of her time like venturing out in the woods, and Pog just got like a day job. And Ari grew up in an environment where community was everything. Like that was the beginning and end of his life, until it was taken away from him through tragedy in the last war. And so I think that's something that Ari really tried to hold on to, was this idea, especially of core of our culture. And I had mentioned in the 2-year gap him attending some unity dinners and really trying to maintain that connection that he had with his past life. And I think that he is never, it is only through the respect of the wishes of his former fellows in arms and now friends / roommates that Ari has like kept the treehouse under wraps, and like has not just been fully out and about, because I think Ari grew up in a very naive situation when it comes to non-house individuals interacting with him and his mark, where it was always core of our first, and then you also have this other thing, but you're always one of us before anything else. And I think that naivete, once Ari escaped the Black Wheel situation and really got established somewhere, he defaulted back to that thinking of like, well, as long as I don't run into any house people, like regular people aren't going to care. And so I think that a lot of the decision making with the idea of safety and like needing to hide and stuff is always something that Ari hasn't fully understood at a conceptual level, and has always kind of thought, I mean, okay, like if you all are really that concerned about it, but I don't get it fully. And then in more recent times in like the campaign proper, I mean, I think, and RA and I had this conversation on a KSA about like the Donabella and kind of that naivete bleeding into that of like, of course her mom's going to take care of her, and like we don't need to be so concerned about this stuff. And so I think Ari, up until a point in this campaign, really saw the best in people as a collective. Like there are individuals that are terrible, but humanity is the wrong word in a fantasy setting, but right. The collective will always err towards goodness, and he didn't have that jaded outlook that the rest of the party. I don't know if that's fair to say everybody, but at least more so than Ari. Yeah. So I think that is why Ari thinks differently on a lot of things than the rest of the group. Now, in the more recent events, obviously, I mean, did you have any follow-ups to that bit before I transition to an next?
No, go ahead.
Part?
Go ahead.
Okay. Obviously, it kind of came to light through a conversation that happened after the very, very long no good night, that Ari has a very different view of killing people than the rest of the party. Despite having a body count now, like Ari is not okay with killing people, and that should be a last resort if somebody intends to kill you, but no other circumstance does Ari think it's okay to kill somebody. And so having like, oh, well, we need to kill Tommel, and like, yeah, that sounds like a good thing. And like, well, I don't know. I mean, certainly that would be the easiest option, but maybe there's other ones. And in Ari's head, he's going, we're just talking about offing somebody. Like, what? No. Like, but he wasn't in a place to strongly verbalize in that conversation. So yeah, I think that's like the biggest thing is Ari's just not in a headspace where he wants to kill anybody, including Tommel. Like, he thinks Tommel needs to be dealt with, but certainly not through killing. And if somebody were to push back and say, then how would you deal with him? Ari would go, I don't know, let's brainstorm. But murder doesn't sound like a viable option. And he's like, so yeah, that's the big one that I've noticed with everyone.
Related to that, I'm curious. In the most recent episode of the conversation with Thora, Ari's very much at the forefront of that conversation, and Ari's conversation with it is almost immediately positive. Like, it is pretty clear that Ari is at least mostly on board from the beginning, and certainly by the end, he's, let's do this. Let's do this. Whereas the others are at least kind of trying to feel Thora out a little more, and Esri is pretty clearly still somewhat reluctant at the end of the conversation. What do you think about Ari makes Ari so quick to trust Thora, I guess, and want to see her plan fulfilled?
Yeah. Spoiler, we've recorded the next batch of episodes before recording this, so I don't want to get into too spoilery territory with the spoiler alert. We talk about it for a while after Thora leaves. But I will iterate something that does come up in that conversation, that like Ari's viewpoint is like, if Thora wanted to harm us, she's had so many ample opportunities to just let us be harmed, and she hasn't. So like, and he said in the conversation with her, or with them about her, in the most recent episode that came out, like, she is one of two people from that part of their lives that could have shown up that Ari would have been like, cool, like, welcome back, we've missed you, what can we do? And that's obviously Thora and Dane. And so, yeah, I think it's just the history, and there's probably still a little bit of hero worship going on. I mean, Thora was like the person, the aberrant at Blackwheel, like what we all could aspire to be. So I think that certainly plays a role in the rose-colored glasses. But no, I think it's just, why would she come saved us from getting shipped off to the houses by the Stormlords if she wanted to harm us? Like, that just seems like a weird play for a person to make. And everything that she said in that conversation was very non-committal, not from her end, but in very much like, she's not going to make us sign a contract. We're not beholden to her. She made it very clear, like, if you don't agree with something I'm doing, you can leave. But it's going to be my way. And so, I don't know. It didn't seem, and she promises community. She promises connection. She promises building something, which is something that Ari has wanted to do since they got to Stormreach. And so, I think that's just, it ticked a lot of boxes for Ari to where he perhaps recklessly was on board from the get-go. So,
yeah.
But
do you think, so part of, as you said, it's been less of Ari's concern, but part of the concern of the group has been secrecy. So Thora kind of gave out that over the last few weeks, she's spied on you.
Yeah.
She's used her skills to keep an eye. Is that something that would bother Ari, or is it, well, good intentions, it's okay?
It Yes, but like good intentions fine up to like if she had commented on like my bed sheets, then it's like, okay, maybe we need to talk about boundaries for us. Like watching us from a distance while we do stuff out in the street, cool. Like we're not in a position to hide ourselves. But if you're sneaking into our home and like looking at us, then that's weird. Like I don't know what good that does you. So no, I mean the knowledge that she had been keeping tabs on us in the city, I I think all like at least it was somebody not seeking like the houses like
Right.
Falco's presence in Stormreach has been like at the back of Ari's mind of like when they do something crazy in the streets, like, well, probably gonna like somebody's gonna hear about that. And so yeah, I don't know. Like you said, it's been less of a concern for Ari, and he's less like secrecy, I guess is the right. Secrecy has not been a concern for Ari. Obviously, Ari values his personal privacy, and so yeah, I think that's where Ari lands on it.
Cool. So obviously the X-Men vibes here are real strong.
Yes.
In Thora's return and in Thora's proposal of creating a safe place, a safe location within Stormreach. Well, spoiler alert, what we've recorded, I don't know yet what's exactly going to become of this thing, because it's going to be rather reliant on player decisions. If we went full X-Men and we open a school for gifted youngsters, what does Ari teach at the school for gifted youngsters?
You know, he has a very high intelligence score and an
Ari
even
is
higher
actually
charisma
really
score.
smart. I know, like, we often put him in positions where he gets flustered, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So I think he's an ideal teacher because he has the high charisma and the high intelligence. Like he could, and so I think he could slot in pretty well. I'm trying to remember if there's any knowledge check that he's proficient in, because he's got a +3 in everything, intelligence based. But I feel like just off the rip, he's not proficient in anything. History, I think, would really speak to Ari, or he would teach history and also be the sponsor for the debate club. So, but also performance, like music is a big part of his life, and so yeah, I think there's a lot of different things he could do, but I think in terms of making sure he wants to teach something the way he thinks it deserves to be taught, he would land history because of his personal and negative feelings about the last war and how, from a historical standpoint, it would be easy to speak about that from a high level of like, this nation did this thing, instead of getting down into like, here's how it affected like the people involved in the conflict. And so I think that would be an important thing for Ari to like make sure that they understood that war isn't a good thing, and a lot of people are going to tell you it is, but no. And so yeah, I think that would be where Ari would want to land.
It's cool.
But he would be happy being the theater teacher, you know. Somebody else.
That was my immediate thought. Was I was picturing Ari getting himself a black turtleneck and becoming the cool theater teacher. But
today we're reading Samuel Beckett.
But no, I like that, and that makes a lot of sense. Ari's concern about just, you know, Ari has expressed a lengthy concern about, you know, preserving community, and I imagine there's a very strong sort of oral tradition concept at the core of our culture in the way that you've played it. So that makes a lot of sense. That's cool. Well, all right. We hope you've enjoyed this little glimpse into Ari, and we'll get into some of these issues with some of the other characters as we go forward, and as we see what exactly becomes of Thora's scheme.
Yep.
And how involved our players want to get. Our characters want to get.
Yeah.
I think our players are all on board with getting into it, but we'll see.
Yeah.
New episodes drop every Monday, and we have another Khyber Shards Answers every Friday. You can submit questions for this over on our Discord, or you can put them in the comments below. Down in the description, you will also find all of our social media, as well as a link to our Discord. And we very much appreciate any buttons you might push down there. Like, dislike, whatever, comments, subscribe, share, all those things are delightful and helpful to us in our service to the almighty algorithm.
Praise be.
Praise be. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. This has been Khyber Shards, and thanks for rolling with us.